California this morning is considering an historic change in the workplace. A new bill called the Fair Scheduling Act would require food and retail businesses with 500 or more workers to give at least 2 weeks' notice when making staff schedules. Employers would be forced to pay for last-minute changes or cancellations. California would be the first state with such a law. New York Times reporter Jodi Kantor drew national attention by shedding light on the impact of last-minute scheduling. Her coverage led Starbucks to change its policies for 130,000 workers. Jodi, good morning.
Good morning.
It's interesting to hear California has the highest percentage of hourly workers. What does this bill hope to accomplish?
Well, the thing to remember is that worker scheduling has totally changed since the days that you and I had high school jobs at the local mall. It's run by these incredibly powerful pieces of software that, from a business point of view, can do incredible things. They can anticipate weather changes. They can say, we need more workers in 3 hours. Business is slow, so we're going to send people home. But what they really do is they schedule people in real time. Now, for the business, that's great. For the workers, it is miserable because they never know when their hours are going to be. And when you don't know when you're going to need to work, you can't get a second job, you can't enroll in a community college class, and if you're a parent, the consequences are especially harsh. Committing to something as basic as a school drop-off time is really hard if you have no idea when you're going to work.
But don't companies have the right to decide what works best for them as a company?
That is exactly what they say, and they say, for us, doing our worker scheduling a month ahead of time, 2 weeks ahead of time, would be as crazy as this show doing its lineup 2 weeks ahead of time. We want to see what's going on before we commit to a schedule.
And then the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce complained that requiring businesses to provide schedules 2 weeks in advance is a one-size-fits-all.
That's how they're going to push back. And no business wants to have any restrictions put on how they schedule people. And this is especially tough because the scheduling system is tied into every other computer system that runs the business. The question is one of basic fairness. For example, a lot of workers are sent home now after even an hour or two after business, if business is slow. So if I'm a low-income mom, I'm making $9 an hour, I've managed to arrange childcare for the day, which is not easy when you make that little money. And then I'm sent home an hour after my shift begins, even though I was scheduled for 8 hours. Is that really fair?
Yeah, and I'm not paid.
And do you think this idea will spread?
Well, that's the question. Legislation has been introduced in Congress, but as we often see with Democratic legislation in a Republican-controlled Congress, it is unlikely to move. I think the question with the California bill is where the negotiation ends up, because if you look at the language of the bill, it's pretty fuzzy. It leaves a lot of room. You know, employers are going to have to pay penalties for changing schedules. What kind of penalties are we really talking about?
But Jodi, explain what you exposed at Starbucks and how they actually changed to try and find a compromise in the situation.
They are giving workers more notice now. I documented the life of one worker, a single mom, and what I was able to see, unfortunately, is the ripple effect of not knowing your schedule. She basically lost 2 homes because the stress of not knowing her schedule was really hard on the other people she lived with. She couldn't continue her community college education. She had a 4-year-old son. The impact on him was enormous.
And how did Starbucks change that?
So Starbucks is now giving workers a little bit more notice. When I had reported the story, people were getting like 3 or 4 days notice, which is not really enough to even plan something like a doctor's appointment.
What made you take it on? What did you see? Because you've written a lot about it. What did you see?
I was fascinated by all of our lives are being affected more and more by algorithms and software and computer, right?
Yep.
Computers. But these low-income workers are paying the highest prices. And I was also fascinated by the fact that stores and restaurants are so different than we realize. When we go in as consumers, you know, I would say to viewers, next time you're even in your local supermarket, your local mall store, ask the workers about their scheduling, because what we don't realize is that there are these really sophisticated pieces of software that are determining everything that goes on in the store.
It's a really important subject.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jodi.
The Starbucks employees, thank you. Thank you, Jodi, very much.